Hi everyone, welcome to 5 Quote Shakespeare, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone clips. If you like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to visit my YouTube channel for a chapter-by-chapter analysis of the most important themes in the story. See the description for details. Thanks for watching. Theme number 1, the hero's journey, is the theme of themes, the Wasteland theme. Every story we tell fits in some varied form into the model of the hero's journey as delineated by Joseph Campbell in The Hero with a Thousand Faces. It's true, it's true. Look at your stories, and there's a wasteland, there's a hero that comes up and has to cure the wasteland, and those are the stories that we tell ourselves. And they're really important, and because they are really the story of how we live our own lives. Hero stories are immensely popular because, when done right, and they're very, very often not done right, they are necessary symbolic representations of deep archetypal structures hardwired into the human psyche. We're born, we got to figure out how to live, and we got to figure out how to die. And our religions used to tell us that. And in many places in the world today, we don't have that anymore. All we have are fictions. We have stories like Harry Potter and Star Wars and those kinds of stories to guide us, to provide a roadmap on how to live. Now, the first guy to point this out was Carl Jung, an absolute genius. He first mapped these structures, the most immediate to us being mother, father, and the hero, the child, that's us. These are the archetypes, and they're absolutely unavoidable and essential. How do I be born? How do I become myself? How do I slay the dragons in my life to become who I am and provide some benefit to society instead of just being a waste of space? So I'm going to make an outrageous claim here. I'm going to say that J.K. Rowling is the most important writer of the last 100 years. She successfully re-symbolized these millennia-old, ancient patterns, and she made them available to a modern secular audience. Now that's the key. We live in the West especially, but in many places in the world, we live in a very, very secular world. We don't have these religious structures to map out where we are in our life's journey and to provide guidance. And without that guidance, life can be very, very difficult. So she mapped it out for a secular audience that is starved for spiritual, life-affirming, struggle-validating nourishment. And now that's the existential problem. Why do we bother struggling in our lives? Here's the map. I'm going to go over this in a few seconds. But it's struggle. It's struggle. And the question is, at the end of it, if we're going to die, why bother with the struggle? Well, our stories tell us why. The hero story is the savior story. Now, what does that mean? That means there are the grand cosmic heroes like Superman and Spider-Man and our religious leaders, our religious prophets and things like that. But at the microcosm level, there's our own little savior stories. We make the world better. It's our story. These hero stories are our story. The hero stories, they solve the existential problem by reminding us of our purpose through right action and achievement. That's what we see in the hero stories. We save the world by making it better. At the micro level, you become a teacher, you become a plumber, you become a doctor, you become a family member contributing to society. And that makes the world a better place. And that is the savior story. That is what makes the world a better place. Okay, let's dig deeply into the hero's cycle. Every story starts in the womb. Every story starts in the village. Of course, the hobbits start in Hobbiton. That is the known world. It's the world of order and safety and comfort. It's the world of ignorance because we don't know what's out there in the big, wide, scary world. It's the womb. It's the age of childhood. It's the age of protection. We are protected by society because the people coming before us, they slayed all the dragons and they made the world safe for us. So here we are benefiting from that kind of safety. But at some point, there must be a wasteland. There must be some kind of violation in all of our stories and in our own lives as well. There's a disruption made by dragons of several different levels, which we'll get to. And that creates a need for correction by the hero. So the wasteland is important. And then once the wasteland is established or hinted at, the Hagrid arrives. The Hagrid is a beautiful, beautiful symbol of the calling. It is the call to cross the threshold, to leave the innocence and ignorance of childhood behind and get out into the dark forest and to start to learn how to become an adult. It's so interesting. So the Hagrid is the calling. It's really, really scary. I use the lightning bolt here, not because of Harry Potter's scar, but because it's scary. It's cosmic. It's like all of a sudden we realize that, wait a minute, I'm not 10 years old anymore. I'm 16 and I got to learn what life is like. It's the awakening of the self's powers. It's the awakening to identity. It is a second birth always, and we're going to look at a lot of cool symbols throughout the Harry Potter series there's always these second, third, and fourth births, the death of the old self and the birth of the new self. It's very, very scary, and very often there is the reluctance of the hero to enter the dark forest. Now, the Dark Forest, of course, takes place literally in Harry Potter, but it's also metaphoric in all of our stories, even our drama stories. It is the world of the unknown in contrast to the known. We step out of safety into danger, from order into chaos. In the Dark Forest, we encounter trials, struggles as the preparation for the achievement of ourself. I got to become who I am. I got to take my place as an adult in the world. I have to fight ogre battles, and the ogre battles of teenagehood is I think maybe the worst one psychologically is disillusionment. We realize that that people aren't as pure and as perfect as we thought they were, and teenagers hate that. It's all of the other teenagehood problems that come with growing up as well, which include knowledge of sex and death and injustice. Teens hate injustice. They got a very idealized view of the world, and so they shake their fists at the cosmos. For good, because they're the ones that are going to heal that wasteland and cure injustice and purge it from the world, but also sometimes naively. It's the knowledge of human imperfection. Our mom and dad aren't perfect anymore. How old were you, dear viewer, when you first realized that your mom and dad aren't perfect? Very, very scary moment, because you realize that all of a sudden, wait a minute, maybe I got to rely on my own resources. I can't always hide behind mom's skirt, do you see? In the Dark Forest, of course, we encounter mentors, helpers, and supernatural aid. And of course, in Harry Potter, there's lots of these. And in our lives, too. And if we don't have these, that's what makes the Dark Forest potentially fatal. Tragic for sure, but potentially fatal. Now, after we become who we are, go watch and play any video game and watch any of these hero movies. We have to fight the big boss battles. Those are the dragons. Now, at the cosmic level, of course, we all love the big Voldemorts. We love Sauron from Lord of the Rings, of course. At the mythic religious level, these are the big corruptors of the universe and the bringers of chaos. Just as interesting, I think, though, are the psychological dragons. Those are the internal impediments that we have to slay in ourselves that are preventing us from becoming who we're supposed to be. They can be fear, they can be lack of confidence, they can be many different things. And in our dramas, not the big fantasy and science fiction stories, but in our quieter dramas that we tell ourselves, it's very, very often the psychological dramas, the dragons that are causing the problems. And the social in our dramas, it's the psychological and social dragons that have to be slain. These are the external tyrants that are hoarding the energies and powers of a person or society. So there can be, quite literally, there can be a tyrant in the world that has to be killed, and that's like the city or the nation is being held back by this tyrant. Or at the social level, at the family level, very often, like in Romeo and Juliet, it's the parents who are the dragons. They are representative of society. Those people are hoarding the powers of the young people for themselves. And in Harry Potter, it would be Draco's, at that level, that's Draco's father. Once we slay the dragons, we've cured the wasteland. There's peace now in the world. And again, story after story after story shows us this. And we return to the world. We return to, not to the home, but yes, to the home. We return to society. This is leaving society far, far behind. We are now mature, complete adults, and we bring the boons. This is what Joseph Campbell called the boons, the benefits to society. At the cosmic, mythological, religious level, it's huge. And very, very profoundly psychological at the same time. In our hero stories, though, I mean, quite realistically, the hobbits, they just bring peace to the Shire so that every person can live their lives peacefully. They heal that wasteland, all levels of the wasteland, and they bring their gifts of newfound powers to the world. You learn how to be a plumber. You go through all these years of training and struggle and boredom to learn your craft, and then you bring it back to the world, and that's the gift you give to the world. You see how it works at the microcosmic level as well. This is why we love these stories, because we feel it in our bones. Even if you've never heard this before, even if this is the first time you're hearing this, you've felt it in your bones, and you don't even know why. Very often there's a difficulty of the return. Now, Harry Potter, at the end of every book, has to go back to Privet Drive, and that's very, very, very painful for him. And we're going to talk about that in this series as well. Okay, so let's bring that all back down to Harry Potter.